So now we've heard Kevin lead up to one of the people they have worked with, which has really hit it out of the park, which is TDK, local company here. You might have known them more for the cassette tapes, but actually they've been a fantastically successful business. And we heard from the chairman, Ishiguro-san, yesterday about how he approached building out the units. And now we're going to hear a case study from Nicola. And she, so come up on stage, please.
Thank you. I'm just going to move the chair. That's for you. So it feels more like a conversation.
Yeah, this one?
Oh, perfect. Oh, the clicker. It will be a conversation. All right. So today, I want to talk about visualization of strategic value. We know what is strategic value in this room. It's not so obvious outside this room, in the mothership. And there is nothing like visualizing it to make it understandable. TDK, Jim was very kind to remind us of the cassette. We have moved on. But it's not the first pivot TDK did. And as you see here, it's a company that has done pivots after pivots. How many companies do you know that went from B2B to B2C back to B2B? I know Nokia and TDK. This is an entrepreneurial company that stays young and, like Ishiguro-san said yesterday, keeps thinking about what's next. And as you can see, keeps growing. For me, this is very impressive. And that's why we show this to entrepreneurs. We understand entrepreneurs. We want to help them. We want to help them contribute to society. And this is what our TDK chairman, Ishiguro-san, mentioned. We exist to contribute to society. TDK Ventures, we are early stage CVC. And by early stage, we say early stage projects, which means that we are looking for startups who have an early stage project where we can influence the outcome. Most times it's seed, Series A, maybe Series B, but sometimes it could be a late stage company, Series E or F, but inside that startup, they have an early stage project where we can influence the outcome. That qualifies for us. We have our core values. We call them Code of Conduct, CODE. C is contribution to society, 100% in resonance with TDK's values. O is one team reaching for the sky. We always want to find a way to raise the bar, not just for ourselves, but for society and hopefully for the CVC ecosystem. That's also why we are sharing all the slides afterwards, and including a spreadsheet if you're interested. D is delivering deep insights. That's the core, the reason we exist, or in French, raison d'être. We are here to share insights that you cannot get otherwise and share it with TDK. If it could be purchased through the reports of Gartner, we have no place to be here. E is entrepreneurs first. And this means we see entrepreneurs as our customers. There is no ambiguity about it. It's not the entrepreneurs and the mothership or others. It's the entrepreneurs. Because again, we're looking at helping them contribute to society. This is our team today. And you will see yellow and blue. I'll introduce the yellow team, and I will let Jackie introduce the blue team. So the yellow team is the investment team. They're in charge of two things. Investment, 50% of their time. Delivering deep insight, 50% of their time. And I'll explain how we do it in the next slides. But the point is, they are not a financial VC where you just do investment, sourcing, assessing, investment, board meetings, and so on. That's only half of their time. The other half is from this deep exploration, this due diligence. They capture learnings into this TDK Ventures briefing and share it back into TDK.
So yeah, platform team is for serving to entrepreneurs. So for example, marketing principal, so he support our portfolio company to refresh their website or announcement. So because usually startups doesn't have a proper PR person. So we are helping and we are working on to help entrepreneurs successful. And myself and the portfolio program manager is an engagement team. We are bridge between startups and also a TDK team globally. So as Nicola mentioned, TDK is changing the business. So TDK has many subsidiaries globally, kind of a conglomerate. So we have many subsidiaries, many business groups. So I reached out business group or subsidiary to look for synergy with startups we are currently looking at, or I'm promoting a portfolio company continuously to find new opportunity for each, both value for startups, also for TDK.
Now, you hear us talking about synergies, sharing insights. It's verbs, it's words. We all agree this is important, but it's very hard to actually feel it. And that's what we want to talk about next, which is visualization. Why does it matter? It's just the way we are wired as humans, our brain. We need to see things. We need to understand them. And it's not just data. It's actually about telling a story. It's about being able to share it. And by sharing, it's spreading. And of course, part of it is design. Now, there are three things that I want to share as ideas. And I'm hoping that many of you will take these ideas and make them even better. And maybe at the next GCV Asia, you will share your own ways of having done it even better than us. But there are ideas about how we found a way to visualize three important pillars of strategic value. The first one is visualizing the strategic fit. And this is clearly company dependent. But we're going to show you how we've done it. The second one is, how do we visualize sharing insights? Building a knowledge graph. And the third one is about, how do we visualize the engagements that are happening between all these portfolio companies and all these TDK teams that Jackie interact with? And you're going to be surprised, but Jackie is already interacting with 34 different TDK teams. And I think we're just scratching the surface.
Yes.
So how do we do that? Let's start with strategic fit. And here I want Jackie to explain the 7 C's of TDK.
So 7 C's is a kind of a focusing market for TDK. So TDK Ventures investment thesis is also aligned with the 7 C's focus area. TDK may update, then TDK Venture may update as well. So we are looking at the same market. Sometimes I feel the startups currently investment director is looking at feel very far from TDK business, but that is fine because we are looking at future. We don't have to expect short-term strategic value. So yeah, in the end, we are looking at the same direction.
And for those who were lucky to be with us yesterday with our chairman, Ishiguro-san, he was talking about direction, but also readiness. And TDK had this view of 7 C's, this big mega trend that TDK knows wants to go, but not so precise, which means that it's still not clear where we want to contribute in metaverse versus where we don't want to contribute in metaverse. So there are many open points. And the TDK Ventures, because our exploration mission is taking the TDK long-term strategy as the input, the 7 C's, which comes from public presentation to investors, this is our inputs, which also means this is our strategic fit matrix. And so what we've done, and this is an old slide because we have more portfolio companies since, we have shown how we've made investment for each portfolio company touching on the 7 C's, but also how each of them touch 3 different levels of integration, from material science and parts to modules, to full system. And by showing this visually and showing that our portfolio started to cover the full 7 Cs across the full level of integration, no one in TDK could say that we were favoring one 7C versus the other, or that we were only investing in applications and nothing in material science, or vice versa. And you can see that one visual tells a full story. And it's a visual that people will remember. And maybe what they remember is simple. Okay, it got the 7C and it's blue everywhere. That's good enough. That basically says that our portfolio was designed in a way that covers the full strategy of TDK. That's what I mean by visualization. Once you've seen that slide, you cannot forget the conclusion, which is our portfolio touches a full long-term strategy. You want to add?
No.
Okay. You see how powerful a good visualization is? No need to say more. Okay, let's talk about sharing insights. We keep talking about strategic value is learnings and sharing back learnings. How do you show that with one slide? So remember, I mentioned that when our investment directors conduct a deep exploration, which typically lasts 3 months. And by the way, we make all these deep explorations we are doing right now and the next quarter available on our website. That's something that I wish more VCs, more CVCs were doing, because it basically says, this is what we're interested in right now, which entrepreneurs want to know. When they reach out to us, it would be quite comforting for them to know that this is what we want to learn next quarter. But even all of us as partners, you know what we're interested in. You know what we've studied before. Now, what's nice about this is we end up with this TDK Ventures briefing that comes from this deep exploration. And this deep exploration has 3 types of outcomes. One is we've studied the space, and this is not a good space to invest. But we've learned a lot, so we share back to the mothership. The second outcome is it's a very interesting space. We want to invest, but we haven't found a startup that meets our KPIs or what we think would be needed for us to really learn a lot and for the startup to be very successful. The third outcome, which is the best outcome, is it's a great place and we found the king of the hill. The company we believe will be market leader #1 in 5 to 7 years. Now, all of these TDK Ventures briefings, the way we explain them is they are self-content unit of learnings. They are self-content. You don't need to read other things to understand it, which means it's shareable and digestible for many TDK teams, especially the ones that are interested in the topic. But they can build on top of each other. So here the visual is we show each TDK Ventures briefing from the previous financial year and the current financial year. And we only show the cover. But all the cover has the titles. And also, and importantly, especially when we talked about ESG earlier this morning, we show the SDG on the cover every single time, depending on the topic. And here there is 2 things that comes from this visual. First, you can see a lot of topics. You see a lot of covers. 2, you start to see that actually financial year last year was 12 months, and we did so many. And here we have actually about the same in the space of 6, 7 months. So visually, you already have a sense that we're accelerating the number of learnings. 2, you can see this kind of links between the briefings. And here it basically says we're building our knowledge on top of previous knowledge. We're building a knowledge graph. That's what we are doing. And so this slide is basically the slide from one briefing, the latest briefing. And that's why you can see on the top, it says this briefing. The next briefing will have the same except one more cover, which will link to other type of briefings. And so with that just one slide, we are basically saying we are learning many different topics and we build on top of others, which means that if someone really wants to deep dive onto a topic, they know how to go back into other briefings, which, by the way, could link to other briefings. One slide. But here we show what we mean by bringing insights. Maybe you can talk about one briefing that was really valuable to a TDK team.
Valuable for TDK, probably eVTOL. Yeah, eVTOL. So we invested maybe 2019?
January 2020.
In 2020. Yes, Autoflight, company called Autoflight. At that time, not so many people at TDK are looking at such eVTOL, but recently we are receiving many inquiries. So which kind of requirement they need? Because high pressure, it's a flying taxi, so we don't know which kind of requirement the customer need in the future. So it doesn't have to be a immediate interest, but for example, for me, I have been keep distributing. Every time I present TDK to TDK Venture, have this kind of briefing, and so this is briefing. You think maybe very short, but it's kind of 60 pages usually. It's very long. Yeah. Yes, briefing is not a brief. So yeah, so sometimes I feel I found a match. Then we hope TDK Ventures briefing will contribute to a business group strategy. It doesn't have to be a startup, always doesn't have to be directly startups, but market. Yeah.
And if you think about what Kevin was presenting just earlier, eVTOL was frontier at the time we invested. No one in TDK thought eVTOL would be a big market anytime soon. Now, I would say it qualifies as Horizon. What's interesting about Horizon is that's when the TDK team needs to think about the new type of product. Because for TDK, typically it takes 3 to 5 years to develop a new type of product, especially if you want to be first to market. So this is a time where we need to engage with the eVTOL company and understand their requirements. And it could be sensors, but it could be battery, it could be a number of things. And so to have done this eVTOL briefing in 2020, most people would have said that was wasted time. What's interesting is that briefing is still valid today, and we are sharing it. But Jackie, can you talk about, it's not just we send a briefing by email,
Yeah.
we do more than that.
Yes, so I'm responsible for a webinar for TDK Ventures briefing. So investment director select appropriate panelists, sometimes from professor, sometimes entrepreneur, CEO for our portfolio companies, and we invite them to talk about. Then we record the video, then I organize a webinar. So let them to listen the discussion, and we have an active Q&A session. Then I sometimes found unexpected attendance. I never think about this department is interested in dry coding technology. So this is a way we found a new team, also delivering deep insight. Yes, that is and I conduct survey always. Then we can, we can show this is a measurable value for TDK team, delivering deep insight. That's I always trying to express to TDK team.
And Jackie said something important, which is we know the team we know, but we don't always know all the teams. And even if we know some teams, we may not realize they would be interested in a topic. And that's why we do this webinar, because one, it attracts more people than we can think of. But two, we record it and we keep it available for everyone so that if a new team starts to have a new interest in that topic, or if someone joins TDK with an interest in that topic, they can find this information. They can find the authors of the briefing, or they can reach out to Jackie. And you can see, I mentioned it in these briefings, one of the tips I would give is we give the authors contact details. So in the cover, the slide number 2, it actually shows the nice pictures of who is writing this briefing and the full contact details. We encourage engagement. And the second tip, which I think is maybe fundamental to this idea of building a knowledge graph, we do versioning. Each briefing starts with V1. And it's so fundamental because first, when you say V1, it removes the pressure for whoever is writing the briefing to be comprehensive. They've only studied for 3 months, not for 10 years. They are not going to be complete. They are not going to think about every TDK use cases. They are not going to have met all the startups in the world. Actually, very, very many times, we have TDK teams, when they read the briefing, coming back and say, hey, you missed a startup. And our response is, great, thank you. Please introduce us. And so we do V1 because we want to make clear that the first version is what we've learned after 3 months. But also, the intent is to update it. And here we have a very simple formula. If it's, so we look at content slides. So let's say there are 50 content slides. So we remove the cover and these kind of slides, the one that don't carry content. But the one that have content, if less than 30% is updated into the next version, it's a minor update. So it's a 1.1, 1.2. And each slide that is updated is shown as updated in the corner. So people who have read it before, they don't need to check every slide. They know which slide have changed or which slide are new. But if it's more than 30%, that's a major update. Then we move from 1.0 to 2.0 to 3.0. And it has this implied messaging that it's a fresh knowledge. You know the date it was done, and you know when it was updated. And so back to the visualization, you can see that we are showing in one slide how we have learned a lot from the previous financial year and how we are accelerating in this financial year, and how we are building a knowledge graph across the briefings. That's one example I wanted to share in terms of visualization. Now, engagements. We talk about engagement so much. And we have a TDK Ventures briefing for portfolio companies. Maybe you can explain it first so that we talk about the problem of having such a big briefing.
Problem?
The TDK Ventures portfolio companies briefing. How big is it?
60 pages?
More than that.
Yeah, sometimes.
Yeah. No, it's 26 portfolio company times 3 slides.
Yeah.
And it covers everything from what is a portfolio company, the synergies with the many different TDK teams. It talks about the latest development, why we invested, why we think it's the king of the hill. It's a big document. And we update it every quarter, which means that, of course, we show which one is updated, but that's too much for senior people, corporate officers to read. Just too much. And our CFO, during a one-to-one, I always like to say, what could we do better? And our CFO said, I would like this briefing of 70 plus pages. Please make it 1 slide. Think about it, 1 slide from 70 pages. And I thought about it for, I think, a week. And then I realized there is a way to do it. And I'm going to show you. And what I'm going to show you is it's a visualization of all these engagements, of all our 26 portfolio company, of all our 30, 40 different TDK teams, and the level of engagements for each of them. And what's beautiful about this is that it's a very simple to use spreadsheet, which every quarter we can update. And because it's a spreadsheet with numbers, we can even make differences between the previous quarter and the next quarter. So we can not only show the snapshot, but how it's improving over time. And we can add more portfolio companies, and we can add more TDK teams. Would you like to see it? Yeah? All right. And so here, of course, I'm hiding the portfolio companies and the TDK teams. But you can see this matrix where we're showing which portfolio company is engaging with which TDK team. And here you see some colors. So if it's gray, it means that it was an engagement that stopped. And it could be for good reasons. The evaluation was successful, but we decided it doesn't meet our requirements or the startup's requirements. And maybe I should explain that when we invest in portfolio companies, sometimes we invest in potential customers of TDK, sometimes in potential partner of TDK, sometimes a potential supplier of TDK. So it means that potentially it's them evaluating TDK, sometimes it's TDK evaluating them. And so you see 3 blue colors, and that's the degree of evaluation. And the last one is evaluation completed. That's our TDK blue color. This means that we have completed that evaluation. Green is design in and design win, which is the same sales terminology. Design in means that TDK has decided to use the portfolio company solution or vice versa. Design win means that we are using their solution or vice versa in the market. And with one snapshot, you can see all of these engagements. And because they are all numbers, you can also see the total calculated automatically at the bottom and at the top. And with that one visual, we're also showing that every single portfolio company have, all of them, without exception, engagements with TDK teams. Not only that, we can see that many have multiple engagements with multiple TDK teams. On top of that, we can show that some TDK teams have many engagements with portfolio companies. And something that happened I did not expect is some TDK teams feel very proud to be engaging with many portfolio companies. And they're like, oh, we can do better. These ones are taking advantage. And now we're starting to have TDK teams feeling like, oh, we have not taken advantage of TDK Ventures as much as we should. And other TDK teams are taking advantage. So that one slide conveys so much information. But you can see how when people leave from watching this slide, they will have a view of what we mean by engagements. It's not words, it's not a verb, it's just visual. They remember every portfolio company have engagements, every TDK teams have engagements. And on top of that, there is an average, which we show at the bottom. Maybe it's difficult to read, but the average engagements per TDK team is 2.5 portfolio company. So on average, each of these TDK teams engage with 2.5 portfolio company. But the engagement per portfolio company, remember this is our customers. On average, they engage with 3.4 TDK teams. And this slide, we reused it for a startup we wanted to invest in. Jackie was presenting it. And she was showing this as, it's not empty words when we say we are going to introduce you to TDK teams. This is fact. This is how many we have engaged and all the TDK teams we are connecting with you. And just that was so powerful for the startup to see. It was not empty words, and it was without exception. What would you say more to that?
So yeah, this is about portfolio companies, but I'm responsible for startups, non-portfolio company yet, or just we pass for investment, but we found a value for TDK team and introduce. So maybe next step is I will make this similar spreadsheet for non-portfolio companies, but TDK team are engaging with. So recently I had a very good example. So R&D team visited one of our startups in US, and he found this startup's technology is much advanced than TDK's internal R&D project. So he decided maybe TDK should stop this project because they more advanced. No point to continue that project. That is also strategic value, we believe. TDK doesn't have to non-competitive project for time and human resources. Maybe TDK can invest another project or working with them together. That's maybe we will make, next step?
Not maybe.
We will.
We will. Exactly. And so you can imagine this is a spreadsheet that's very easy to do. So if you're interested in the spreadsheet, we can share it. And the way it works is in the spreadsheet, if you press 1, it shows you the first color. You change to number 2, it changes to the other color. 3, 4, 5, 6. And so you can imagine as you make a new quarter, it's a new tab, and then you can create a tab which is a difference of the two. And it will show whether it's going down or going up. So please do reach out to us if you are interested in the spreadsheet. I have the template ready. Okay, so I'll start with this. This is actually probably 3-4 hours the first time to enter all this information correctly.
Yeah, half days, yeah, I think.
Half day.
Yeah.
Once that's done, the next quarter is about looking at what has changed. I wouldn't minimize it. I think it will still be half a day, right?
Right.
So that actually is very low maintenance while being extremely powerful for people to see. If we go to the briefings, this takes a lot of time. But what's interesting is 90% of the time of doing the briefing is not writing the briefing. It's doing the deep exploration, which the investment team is doing anyway. And I would say probably 70% overlap with an investment proposal they are making anyway. And so the tip of the iceberg, which is a 10% remaining to put it into a nice briefing with some context, is so worth it because that 10% extra effort creates value. And I haven't mentioned it, but this briefing, I send it to the top 50 people of TDK. But I put it on the intranet for 100,000 plus people to access inside TDK. And this is back to the point, I don't know everyone in TDK. And there may be a very smart engineer somewhere in TDK I don't know about, and Chucky doesn't know about, none of us know about, but through the webinars they're interested about lithium extraction process. And they're going, oh, there's, boom. They go, they open, they learn a lot, and they see who is the author, it's Anil and Catherine, and they reach out to them. And suddenly, thanks to this briefing, we end up with connecting with people we would never have a chance to meet otherwise. So I would say the effort is probably per briefing, and I'm talking the incremental effort that they have to do anyway for an investment proposal. I would say probably 2 days.